Al Sharpton, and we're back. Let's go back to the phones. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Twitter.com, The Rev Al. Twitter.com, The Rev Al. Let's go to Tommy in Chicago, WVON 1690. Home of the governor, Cliff Kelly.
Well, a great afternoon to you, Reverend, and I wish I would have had the opportunity to talk to the esteemed Mr. Allison. I'm sure he's listening. Well, Reverend, here's your unauthorized edition of www.howdumbcanyoube. So this edition is running your mouth. It is absolutely, positively platinum status when you call a national syndicated show and you promote violence to the host. As if the host is going to turn around and say, you're right. So I'm calling everybody out there to pick up arms and let's go beat up all the white people. But wait, before we go, remember we ain't even tried voting because y'all don't vote.
Yeah.
So we don't even know whether wait a minute. We gonna fight first, and then I guess maybe. Well, I don't know. How about we try voting? How about we try taking a real interest in our communities? How about we stop hollering and screaming about the white man and start to appreciate the fact of all of the years of the voices that permeated the airwaves, giving us clear narratives of what our circumstances, what our situation is, what our narrative ought to be. How can a person, a black person especially, call the Al Sharpton show and start with this absolute nonsense? It's past nonsense. It's disrespectful. It's outrageous. It's hypocritical. When a man comes on the radio station, I don't care if it's a duck quacker, and tell you, hey, we're about to go into very difficult and trying times. If you don't, at least push a button. There ain't no white man standing there fixing to beat you up to do that. And then, what happened to all of the communities, Reverend? When they were suppressing the vote, when you were doing everything but crying, telling people they're suppressing the vote, they're suppressing the vote, they're suppressing the vote. But no, Reverend, you went down there and you and all the rest of them colored leaders. Reverend, I'll get off the airway because I'm so cynical right now. They ain't trying to figure out, what is all this with Donald Trump? When you know absolutely clearly, us, them, and they people, I'll explain it for you one last time. Us is the people who go out here and work hard every day, pay our taxes, ask for a decent community, ask for a living wage, ask for our chance for our children to be straight, and just want to live in peace. They are the ones that come on these airwaves, spin this narrative about is this way, is that way, and divide each and all of us. And they are the Kushners, the Trump, the Nunes, the Schaefers, the Rice Priebus, the Steve Bannons, who sit up there and can do things that can affect your life for the rest of it. And you have a Sharpton on the radio station talking to the entire nation. Lou Palmer said that's enough to turn a porcupine black. That's what I say, y'all, to subscribe to www.
Love you. Thank you for your call, Tommy. I think, is Charles still with us? Charles. I know I'm keeping you over, but Tommy is right. I think that when I get calls sometimes, when people are asking me, why don't I endorse violence and all, which I just don't believe in violence. I never have. I come out of, raised by the lieutenants of Dr. King. I started too young to work directly with him.
Right.
But that's just my belief. But I have to say there's some credence to what Tommy says. You host a radio show now, which why I pull you back. And that is that if somebody calls you on the radio and asks you why you're not endorsing or calling for violence, they may be sincere. Well, you have to ask yourself, is this one of these right-wing, alt-right groups trying to tape you so they can go out and say they're on the air, promote violence?
Right.
Al Sharpton is a promote violence. I mean, what do you really think people think you trying to do? I mean, if I was the kind of person to be violent, if I was the kind of person that had become so morally polluted that I wanted to be like the folk we fight, would I sit up on national radio and say that? I mean, so you really have to ask, is this some kind of trick? Because we saw them do this to get that group Akon, set up some phony kind of filming. And they will do that to get any of us. Got to be wise to fight this fight.
You have to be very wise. Another thing, too, is that violence is not sustainable. It's not something that really creates or triggers sustainable movements that have efficacy, that actually have, that actually keep, sustain communities for the long term, really. Violence only begets more violence. That ends up nowhere, right? And so, you have to be, as you said earlier, with that last call, you have to be real strategic. I also got to be real smart there, because you don't want to be accused of inciting violence.
That's right.
Just by agreeing with that type of methodology or philosophy.
Well, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, you mentioned I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, supporting the Terrence Crutcher family and all. When I landed, they had a front page of the paper, city prepares for Sharpton visit, National Guard on alert. And any suggestion of violence